What you just heard weren't random sounds. They were the sounds of my sleepless nights, the tiny wins, and the setbacks that shaped everything. All of them are part of the profit files I keep here, in Profit with A. Tonight, I'm opening files related to something that's often talked about but rarely done: budgeting. Specifically, how to save $500 this month. But here's the thing, this isn't just some theory or a list of tips you can find online. These are real stories, from my own journey, documented, raw, and practical. What you're about to hear are the steps I took, the mistakes I made, and the lessons I learned while working towards a goal many of us set but rarely meet: saving a significant amount of money in a short time. Before we begin, make sure you're subscribed to Profit with A and hit the notification bell. What we uncover here could be the blueprint for your own hustle, and you won't want to miss what comes next. It was a Wednesday morning in the middle of summer. The sun was already high in the sky, and I was sitting at my kitchen table, staring at my bank account. It was close to the end of the month, and my savings goal for $500 seemed impossible. The bills were coming, and the groceries were running low. I had about $150 left to my name, $50 of which was allocated for groceries. With a sigh, I grabbed a notebook and made a list. A grocery list. But this wasn't just any grocery list, this was going to be my $50 grocery challenge. I decided to try something radical. Instead of sticking to my usual shopping routine where I mindlessly filled my cart with the usual items, chips, frozen dinners, snacks, I committed to sticking to a bare-bones budget. I scoured coupon apps, read articles on cheap meals, and mapped out meals I could make with basic ingredients that would stretch for the week. My goal: to create a week's worth of food for under $50 without sacrificing too much on quality or taste. I made a list: rice, beans, pasta, some veggies, and a few proteins like chicken legs and eggs. It wasn't glamorous, but it was cheap. Walking through the aisles with my list in hand, I felt like a contestant on a game show. Every decision felt like it had to be precise. Do I get the extra-large bag of rice, or the smaller bag with the better price per ounce? Is this chicken breast really a good deal? How many eggs do I actually need? I calculated prices in my head, picked up items, put them down, and questioned every decision. Halfway through, I realized I hadn't even accounted for the few extra essentials like toiletries and cleaning supplies, which always seemed to sneak into my cart. As I looked at my cart, the panic set in. Was I going to make it? I wasn't sure. Then, I remembered my primary goal: save money to reach that $500 target. This was a small step toward that, and I had to stay focused. Every $1 saved here would bring me closer to my bigger goal. At checkout, I held my breath. The total came to $48.25. I was $1.75 under budget. As I bagged the groceries and left the store, a small but powerful victory washed over me. I had taken control of one part of my finances, and it felt good. It wasn't just about getting through the week, it was the fact that I had done something that felt nearly impossible. I was making progress toward my savings goal, one grocery trip at a time. That night, as I prepared a simple stir-fry from the ingredients I bought, I reflected on how far I'd come. The $50 grocery challenge had been more than just a financial experiment, it was a mindset shift. I realized that making small changes could lead to bigger wins. Saving money didn't have to feel like deprivation, it could feel like empowerment. The lesson: cutting costs doesn't always mean sacrificing the essentials. It means being strategic, mindful, and understanding where you can cut back without compromising your values. At Profit with A, we classify this as a small win moment, not because of the money saved, but because it was proof that with the right approach, even tight budgets can lead to bigger financial success. But grocery shopping wasn't the only area I could control. There was still plenty of room for improvement when it came to other expenses. Next up, my biggest weakness, impulse spending. It was a Tuesday morning, and I was about to pour myself my usual third cup of coffee. But as I held the steaming mug in my hand, something hit me. I'd been spending roughly $20 a week on coffee. That's $80 a month, or $960 a year. And as I looked at the numbers, I realized that this $20 habit was quietly eating into my ability to save. I had to change. I decided to tackle this habit head-on. I made a plan to quit my daily coffee shop runs for a full month. I figured if I could replace it with cheaper options, like brewing my own coffee at home, I could save a good chunk of money each month. So, I did some research. I found an affordable coffee maker, some quality ground coffee beans, and reusable filters. The total for everything came to around $40, less than what I'd typically spend on coffee in 2 weeks. The next step was simple. I committed to making coffee at home for the next month. No exceptions. The first few days were tough. I missed the ritual of heading to my local cafe, the comforting hum of the espresso machine, and the feeling of handing over my card for that cup of comfort. The homemade coffee, by comparison, felt a little bland. But I pushed through. I found that I could customize the strength of my brew, adjust the flavor with spices like cinnamon, and even learn to appreciate the simplicity of it all. By week 2, it wasn't so bad. I was getting the hang of it. And by the end of the month, I had learned a valuable lesson. I wasn't just saving money, I was reclaiming a small piece of my daily routine. At the end of the month, I did the math. I had saved nearly $80 by not going to the coffee shop. That's the exact amount I'd originally planned to save from my grocery challenge, just by quitting one habit. Not only did I save money, but I also realized something even more important. It wasn't just about saving the money. It was about the habit itself. By eliminating the coffee shop run, I didn't feel deprived, I felt empowered. It wasn't a matter of cutting out joy, it was about reprioritizing what truly mattered. I could enjoy my morning ritual without spending $20 a week on it. And I was closer to my $500 savings goal. At Profit with A, we classify this as a habit change moment, not because of the money saved, but because it proved that small adjustments in daily spending can have a big impact. But saving money isn't just about cutting back on small habits. It's also about making sure that your bigger expenses are aligned with your goals. The next challenge: rethinking how I spent on subscriptions. It was a Sunday afternoon, and I was sitting on the couch, scrolling through my phone, trying to relax. As I checked my bank account, a notification popped up: subscription renewal, Netflix, $14.99. A moment of dread hit me. I checked my email, another one for Spotify, another for Amazon Prime. I hadn't realized how many subscriptions I was actually paying for. Altogether, they added up to nearly $40 a month, just for streaming, apps, and services that I wasn't fully using. I had to face the facts. These subscriptions were quietly draining my budget. I decided to take immediate action. I sat down with a notebook and wrote down every subscription I had. The total was eye-opening: Netflix, Hulu, Spotify, Amazon Prime, Audible, some fitness apps, all of them added up. Some I barely used. Others, I realized, were just-in-case subscriptions. I wasn't actively enjoying them, but I was letting them renew automatically, month after month. I made a list of everything I could potentially cancel, starting with the services I used the least. I focused on cutting anything that wasn't contributing to my goals or wasn't something I genuinely used every day. As I clicked cancel on my various subscriptions, I felt a twinge of regret. Hulu had my favorite shows, Amazon Prime offered free shipping, and Netflix had a massive library of content. But the truth was, I wasn't watching enough to justify the costs. There were moments of second-guessing. Would I miss that one series? Was I throwing away something I might use later? But each time I canceled one, I thought about the $40 I could save. It wasn't just about reducing expenses, it was about the bigger picture. I had a goal, and these small, recurring charges were standing in my way. By the end of the week, I had canceled 4 subscriptions. The savings? A solid $40, which was a step toward my $500 target. A month later, I realized I didn't miss the subscriptions at all. In fact, the extra time I gained from not mindlessly scrolling through Netflix and Hulu helped me focus on more productive activities, like meal prepping and finding additional ways to save. The $40 saved was used to pay off a small bill, and I felt that much closer to my goal. But beyond the money, it was the lesson that stuck. Subscriptions are often a hidden budget bloat, and it feels good to take control of them. I continued to audit my subscriptions over the next few months. I became more mindful of where my money was going and realized that having fewer but more meaningful subscriptions made a huge difference in how I viewed my finances. It wasn't about cutting out everything I loved, it was about cutting out the things I didn't actively use. The lesson: small recurring expenses, like subscriptions, are often overlooked but can quietly add up to big amounts. Taking time to reassess and cancel what's not serving you can lead to a significant impact on your budget. At Profit with A, we classify this as a strategic spending moment. Not because of the subscriptions canceled, but because it was a moment of clarity and control over my recurring expenses. Once I tackled my subscriptions, the next hurdle was dealing with something even trickier: the temptation to overspend during sales and promotions. It was late in the afternoon, and I was sitting at my desk, working. My phone buzzed, a notification for a flash sale on a site I had browsed a few times. 50% off everything today only, the headline screamed. A quick glance at my bank account, and I saw that I had just about $100 set aside for savings. I opened the sale page. It was like being sucked into a vortex. Every item seemed essential, every deal seemed too good to pass up. I started adding items to my cart: clothes, gadgets, even kitchenware I didn't need. The total quickly crept up to $90. I still had $10 left over, but suddenly, the savings goal felt distant. It would be so easy to justify this purchase, right? I paused. For a moment, everything seemed to blur. But I knew I had to make a decision. Was this sale really worth it? I took a deep breath and closed the browser. Instead of buying into the temptation, I decided to stop and think about what I was really trying to accomplish. I went back to my list of financial goals. Saving $500 was about more than just eliminating small costs. It was about controlling my impulses, about being strategic, and about understanding what I truly needed versus what I thought I wanted in the moment. The next few days, I felt a slight sense of regret. I kept thinking about the items in my cart, the great deals I had missed out on. But then, I remembered what my bigger goal was. Every dollar I saved would bring me closer to financial stability and freedom. I was learning that there would always be sales and promotions, new opportunities to spend money, but if I didn't learn to control my impulses, I'd never truly hit my savings targets. So, I stuck with my decision. But the struggle didn't end there. There were other temptations: Amazon Prime Day, Black Friday sales, even small store discounts. But I stayed firm. A month later, I checked my savings goal. I had hit $450, just $50 shy of my target. I couldn't believe how much of an impact staying away from the temptation had made. That $90 I would have spent on the sale. It had been saved, and now I had learned a valuable lesson: temptations come and go, but financial goals last. I learned that saving money isn't just about cutting back, it's about learning to say no when the urge to splurge hits. I also realized that, much like subscriptions, sales are designed to push you into impulsive decisions. And sometimes, the best sale is the one you don't participate in. The lesson: impulse spending is a silent thief of your savings. Every time you resist the urge to buy something you don't need, you're strengthening your ability to stick to your financial goals. At Profit with A, we classify this as an impulse control moment. Not because of the money saved, but because it was proof that resisting temptation can help you achieve your financial goals. But mastering impulse control wasn't the only hurdle. Next, I had to take a hard look at my fixed expenses and decide what I could change to make the biggest impact on my savings. It was a quiet Saturday afternoon. I was sitting in my living room, notebook in hand, staring at my monthly budget. I had managed to cut back on groceries, eliminated subscriptions, and resisted the temptation to overspend on sales. But as I reviewed my budget, there it was, my biggest expense, my rent. At $1,200 a month, it was the heaviest weight on my finances. I knew that if I was ever going to reach my $500 savings goal, I needed to find a way to tackle this one big fixed expense. The problem: I couldn't simply move out or lower my rent. I wasn't in a position to change my living situation. But I also knew that there had to be something I could do to free up some money without sacrificing my home. I decided to get creative with my fixed expenses. I began by reviewing all my monthly costs: rent, utilities, car insurance, and so on. Utilities, car insurance, and even my phone plan were flexible enough for me to make changes, but rent, that was set in stone. I started by tackling my utilities first. I called my energy provider to see if there were any promotions or lower-cost plans available. I also turned off lights in rooms I didn't use, unplugged appliances I didn't need, and set the thermostat a little lower in the winter and a little higher in the summer. Small tweaks, but they all added up. Then, I looked at my car insurance. I had been with the same company for a while, and I wondered if I was paying too much. I shopped around and found a new policy that was about $50 less per month. It wasn't a massive savings, but every dollar counted. Finally, I looked at my phone plan. I was paying for a higher tier plan than I actually needed. I downgraded it to a more basic version, which saved me another $30 each month. These weren't big, flashy changes, but by the end of the week, I had managed to shave off a total of $150 in fixed expenses. The process wasn't easy. It wasn't as satisfying as buying something new or saving a chunk of change all at once. The truth was, these small changes felt somewhat insignificant in the moment. But when I looked at the $150 I had freed up, I realized that all these little steps added up to something bigger. The key challenge was shifting my mindset. I had to stop thinking about expenses as something fixed and untouchable. I had to see them as flexible. Whether it was negotiating with service providers, adjusting my lifestyle a little, or simply making smarter choices, I realized that small, consistent actions were the real game changers. By the end of the month, I'd also reallocated some of the money saved into my emergency fund. This was a significant milestone for me. It wasn't about making a huge dent all at once, but about finding that middle ground, still living comfortably, but saving along the way. The true win came when I looked at my savings progress. With $150 saved from fixed expenses, I was able to hit my $500 target for the month. It wasn't as flashy as I imagined it would be, but it was incredibly fulfilling. I hadn't sacrificed anything major. I still had my home, my car, and my services. But I had taken control of my finances, and that made all the difference. The month ended, and as I reviewed everything I had learned, I realized that fixed expenses are not set in stone. If you're creative enough, there are always ways to tweak things, negotiate better deals, or make small changes that can add up. I felt a sense of pride knowing I had found a way to save money without major disruptions to my lifestyle. The lesson. The key to long-term savings isn't just about cutting back on the fun stuff. It's about taking a hard look at the fixed costs you can control. And even the smallest savings, when repeated over time, can lead to substantial results. At Profit with A, we classify this as a strategy adjustment moment, not because of the money saved, but because it proved that you can tweak fixed expenses and still live your life without feeling deprived. As I closed the month with my savings goal hit, I reflected on all the changes I had made. What I learned is simple: it's the small, consistent changes, whether cutting costs, resisting temptations, or adjusting habits, that lead to the biggest wins. But this isn't the end. There are always more ways to optimize, to hustle, and to save. These files show the same truth: making money isn't about big, dramatic moves. It's about consistency, trial and error, and a willingness to start small. The notifications may come slowly, but when they do, they start to sound like music. Don't wait for perfect conditions. Start where you are, with what you have. The first win, no matter how small, is proof that the door is open. If you've started your own hustle, drop your story in the comments. I might feature it in a future profit log. Subscribe to Profit with A, hit the notification bell, and don't miss the next file we open. This has been a productive one from Profit with A. Until next time, keep hustling.